remarkable courage for a middle school student to come out tonight. Pretty cool. So our mission in Worthington Schools is to empower a community of learners who will change the world. This fall, we partnered with a group called bekindtokids, and we brought a couple hundred people together multiple evenings throughout the fall as we worked to create a community-driven portrait of a learner. We wanted to create our collective vision that would articulate what our community's aspirations are for all Worthington students. And so when you see the portrait, that's what we're attempting to do. We want to say, this is what we want for our students. And we were thankful for the many teachers, administrators, parents, other community leaders that came night after night on some weather like we have tonight to engage with us because they care deeply about the future of Worthington Schools. And so we said that we would release that portrait tonight. So here we go.
We have put well over 100 people in a room and asked them to do the very things that we are asking of our students. So we're having to think critically about the competencies and the definitions. We're having to collaborate with people that we probably just met. We're having to communicate with our feedback. And so it's really forcing us to experience all the things that we want our students to ultimately be able to do. I think one of the reasons to be really excited about this process for anybody in the Worthington community is because we talk about empowering students to change the world. Students are going to leave our buildings and they are going to change the world. The question is, how are they going to change the world? And in Worthington, we're taking an opportunity to press pause and really think about the skills and the competencies that we want our students to have, and then actually do something about building those skills in our students. To take time to think about how do we want our students to change the world. And then once we have that goal in mind, then we can start to take action. We can be intentional about the skills that we're teaching our students and really set them up for success in their own lives. But if we're setting our students up for success in their own lives, then the greater good is ultimately impacted for the better as well. So I think at the end result of this project is that we've got some students that are going to go out into our community and ultimately make Worthington a better place for a long, long time.
So I'm joined on stage by our Board of Education President, Nikki Hudson, our Director of Secondary Education, Emily Greenwald, and our Director of Elementary Education, Rob Messenheimer. So I'm going to start with Nikki, so we'll give you the mic here. So Nikki, you represent Worthington as both the president of our school board, but also as a lawyer for a multinational company. As you see the portrait, what resonates with you and why?
Can I start by saying that I feel a little bit like I'm back in class as a student and I'm being called on first? Sure, I'll start us off here. Well, I didn't bring my glasses, so I can't quite see that, but I've studied it quite a bit on the screen. And I can honestly say that the entire portrait resonates with me. When I think specifically about success in the corporate world, or really honestly success in life, overall well-being and happiness, I think each of those competencies is really important. But I'm going to focus in on adaptability. I think most of us know that career paths are no longer set in stone, and the future of careers looks very different for our students than it did even for us, let alone prior generations. And so I think it's incredibly critical that our students are adaptable and able to transfer their skill sets from one career to another, not just from one position to another. Also in the area of adaptability, I think about the advancements of technology and the incredibly fast pace at which, you think it's moving so fast, how could it get any faster? And sure enough, it does. All the more important for our students to have that skill set of adaptability and to be able to adapt to those advancements and incorporate them into their professions and their path forward.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, Emily, the portrait that we see right now on the screen is really kind of an end product, an end goal as our students exit Worthington schools. How do you see this portrait influencing what may happen in the high school?
So I look at the portrait as a compass or a guide for how we approach things with our students. So we know that we want them to be strong in their academics in math, English, social studies, science, global languages, to pursue their passions in our elective areas. That doesn't change. This comes alongside of that, in my opinion, and helps inform how we approach those things. And so I could see our teachers using this in classrooms. We saw John Torski on the screen earlier with a great example of project-based learning where kids are really digging in and problem solving. I could see our teachers being very intentional about building communication skills with kids, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And so throughout this process, we talked about wanting our kids to be able to graduate enrolled, employed, or enlisted, and I think this is how we get there.
Thank you. So, when we began this process, we endeavored to create the portrait that you see in front of us, but we previously had a middle school learner profile. And so our middle schools have been using that profile for some time, and we determined through this process that we don't want to get rid of the middle school learner profile. We want to make sure we keep that. Why is that important to us?
So we're really proud of our middle school learner profile. And actually, as you said, we had it out and copies of it were available throughout the process of the Portrait of a Learner. And so I'll take you back several years ago. So we were planning on moving 6th grade into our middle schools, and we put together a design team of principals and teachers, parents and students, and really talked about what is it that we want our middle school students to be when they leave our middle schools. And together they came up with this in a collaborative process. And so when you fast forward to today, you see the middle school learner profile throughout our middle schools. You see it in our classrooms, in the instruction, absolutely, but it's actually on the walls of our classrooms. You see it in the hallways. You see in how we recognize our students. Our students of the month are recognized with these attributes. And then of course we have our Global Thinkers course that absolutely incorporates all of those things. So we wanted to honor the work that had been done. And if you look at this and look at our Portrait of the Learner, you see that they dovetail together beautifully, that there are common elements of them. And so for that reason, we felt it was important to keep it.
So throughout the country, actually, you'll see school districts that have what they sometimes call a portrait of a graduate. We wanted ours to be a portrait of a learner, a growth process. One of the things that I think is unique to Worthington schools is we decided that we wanted a pre-K-12 transition. And so we've created not only a middle school learner profile, but we've created an elementary learner profile. So Rob, where did the concept of having an elementary portrait come from?
Yeah, so before I answer that, you hit on this a little bit, but one thing that I think is pretty neat is that this is uniquely Worthington. So Battelle for Kids, who does this work all across the country, working with different districts to develop learner profiles, shared with us that they hadn't seen any other district across the country that had developed a progression of profiles that went from pre-K and elementary to middle school to high school. So I share that, not to share that we're unique, but I feel like I'm pretty proud that our district recognizes that we really wanted this work that came out of this committee to be something that all of our students and all of our families could really connect with, regardless of the age that they are. So where this really came out of was feedback from the development committee, so that community-driven committee. If you were lucky enough to take part in that, it was very participatory, so there were lots of opportunities to provide feedback throughout the process. By the end of it, it became pretty clear that feedback said that there was value in really looking at how could we craft this in a way that even our younger students could connect to it, and that's how we landed on the elementary learner profile.
So just piggybacking on that, Rob, what were the important considerations? Like when you thought about adapting the high school and middle school profile to an elementary, what was the thought process?
Yeah, so 3 things really stick out to me. We wanted it to be something that was understandable, we wanted it to be usable, and we wanted it to be connected. So when we talk about understandable, one of the priorities of this work group was really making it be something at the end of the process that our students could see themselves in, again, regardless of age. So when we think about preschool and elementary age students, we wanted to be purposeful in the language that we use. So we wanted it to be simple enough that a 5-year-old in kindergarten could connect, but also an 11-year-old in 5th grade, that it would have enough depth to keep them engaged with that work too. So we feel like we landed in a good spot with that leader, thinker, friend. I think even as adults, we strive to be good friends and leaders in our community and our workplace, and we want to be able to think deeply. We want those same things for our kids. Our administrative team thought it was really important to make sure that it's something that's usable. So Emily talked about how the middle school has really brought their profile to life. We want the same thing at the elementary. So that's our work looking forward. So that's bringing it to life from something that hangs on the wall as a poster to really helping kids understand what are the actions that align with each one of these competencies. And then lastly, we wanted to be connected. So as kids age out of the middle school, we really wanted it to connect to the middle school and then ultimately the high school portrait as well. So you're going to see a lot of the same language and the same themes run through all 3 of these profiles.
Awesome. So Nikki, you get the last question. So as a community leader, as you hear about this pre-K-12 articulation, what does that do? How does that excite you about the future of Worthington schools?
Can I answer first as a parent?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. The critical thinking component as a parent, and you hit on it earlier actually when you mentioned TikTok. I cannot be the only parent who has teenagers who tell me about the things they learn via TikTok. So that critical thinking component is, let's say, very critical. As a leader within Worthington, and I would just say actually as a school board member, what really excites me about this portrait of a learner is that I know that we already have in place, and actually we have joining us tonight, the teachers and the staff and the administrators who have the heart, who have the passion, and who have the expertise to help our students continue to develop and grow these competencies. And that's priceless. We can create, we can spend months and create a path and things we aspire to and put them on a paper, but to have in place the people who we've already seen tonight have the heart and the passion and the expertise to make it happen is what really matters and what's really exciting. And I will just end with, I feel like we should be really proud as a community that we are intentionally ensuring that our students are positioned to do good in this world, wherever they may land.
So again, as we look at the portrait, I want to just thank that design team, the people that came together, that invested their time, that engaged in meaningful conversation for hours and hours. We're really excited about this pre-K-12 articulation of what do we want for our students at each level of their schooling. And what's amazing is after tonight, we get to move from the get it on paper phase to the implementation phase. And so that's an exciting shift for all of us. We're going to move off stage and we're going to welcome to the stage behind us the Liberty Elementary School 5th grade choir.